What's up everyone, welcome back to another episode of Missed Opportunities. This series will be a discussion of Dragon Ball characters who have been left behind, poorly treated, have wasted potential, or overall were just missed opportunities. This could either be because of their importance diminishing over time, their character completely changing for no reason, or aspects of their character being overlooked for no good reason whatsoever. We'll be analyzing the good parts of the character or thing that we're covering, as well as what went wrong with it, and what could have been or should have been done with them. Today, we'll be taking a look at not a few specific characters, but rather a large group of characters that make up multiple realms across all of the universes. Kais, demons, destroyers, angels, you name it. Everyone from Kami to Whis, and then some. To keep it simple, we'll just refer to it the way that some of the games refer to it as, the Realm of Gods. You guys voted for this topic to be covered, and it should be interesting to delve into. Now it may seem like there's a lot to cover here, and there both is and isn't. Okay, that sounded good on paper, but it's kind of confusing reading it out loud. What I mean is that the Realm of Gods has a lot of things going on in it, but not a lot happening at the same time. There's a lot of subcategories in this group, and different aspects that apply to each category, but nothing is ever really done with them. We have a bunch of stuff pertaining to the realm that's never expanded upon. Angels, Kais, Destroyer Gods, the Demon Realm, all that other stuff. And on the surface, it may seem like we've been given a bunch of info about these people, like how we've seen Angels, Kais, and Destroyers from other universes, and like we saw Deborah in the Buu arc. But that's really just scratching the surface. We may know a lot about the Kais, but what have we actually seen about them in the manga? We may know a lot about the different destroyers, but what do we know about them in the anime? We know the Demon Realm exists, but what even is the Demon Realm and what goes on there and why is it so important in the first place? In terms of these figures, these are really the only ones we know a little bit about. Beerus, Shin, Elder Kai, Zamasu, Gowasu, King Kai. But what else though? And we don't even really know a lot about these guys except maybe Zamasu and Beerus, and even then it's not much to work with. Like the ones with the most backstory are really just Zamasu and Shin, and what little backstory we have doesn't even explain their position that well. So since I'm mentioning them, let's start off by talking about the Kais. One really big reason I wanted to make this was because of the Buu saga expanding into the realm of Kais. Prior to it, we only saw King Kai and knew some others existed and that there's a pecking order with them, but we really didn't get anything to go by when learning about them. Now I'm not saying I want to know every one of these Kais personally, like saying I want to know the entire backstory of the Grand Supreme Kai and like what his favorite food is, or the name of West Kai's mother or something like that. No, it's perfectly fine with me that we don't know much about these guys in terms of who they are, at least as individuals. What bothers me is that we really don't get to see them so much and actually make us think that they're important in some way. Like yeah, we could just be told that they're important and they do something to help the universe, but we don't even really know what they do, or ever see it for that matter. And to build off that point, one thing that bothers me more is the fact that they're made out to be incompetent because of that. We could always blame that on retcons and the fact that they were only brought into existence as the series went on, which is why they were never involved in past stuff, but it's almost like DBZ and Super went out of their way to make it seem like the Kais were equally mysterious and incompetent. Just in Universe 7 for example, all these bad things are going on in the universe, and nothing is ever done by them to help. The only explanation we get is that they don't pay attention or do their job right, and that Shin is kind of incompetent, and I guess that applies to the other Kais too because we don't even hear what they do. And that's why Universe 7 only has a couple dozen planets remaining that have life on them, and why it's one of the lowest ranked universes. It just feels to me like they're being made to be incompetent for no good reason. For the Kais, I feel their realm needs more explanation or just some exploring to do. What do the Kais do other than drinking tea? In the thousands of the years he's been around in the universe, what has Shin done as Supreme Kai ever since he got the position, and what are his duties? Same with the Supreme Kais from other universes. We could even just see it from their perspective and then we'd know kind of what Shin does. Like all we're really told is that they just create stuff while the destroyers destroy stuff, and they can use time rings and stuff like that. I mean, it would be cool to see them work in tandem with the destroyers more like they should, and we could get to see them actually doing their jobs and know what their purpose is and why we should feel they're important. We know that the two go hand in hand, but I feel that seeing destroyers and Kais interact would make them look a lot more interesting, even if it's just a brief experience. Same with the other Kais below them. The most we've seen of them is in filler where they just like watching tournaments and stuff. But what do they do other than that? How do Kais act and work to ensure that their area is safe? What do Kais in other universes do to have such successful universes and having higher mortal levels than others? Really, it would just be nice to go more in depth about their roles and duties and potentially see stuff like how they manage the universe and create planets and life and stuff like that. And like I mentioned, alongside them, we have the Destroyers, who are another group that I do want to talk about. Destroyers actually haven't been treated as poorly as the Kais have in terms of lore and fleshing them out, because while Kais have a bunch of confusing tiers to them that will always change, with varying amounts of Kais in the universes, Destroyer gods seem a lot more simple. Like for the Kais, we're first told there's King Kai, and then there's Kais that are like him, and then there's Kais above that, and then above that. But for the Destroyers, they're just one for each universe, 12 in total. Simple as that. I'm hesitant to include them on here since there's still room for them to develop, and we haven't really seen the last of them. However, I will say that more definitely could have been done with them. When you look at it, we know surprisingly little about the group of individuals. It's pretty similar to the Kais. The only thing we've seen so far that applies to this is that one drawing Toyotaro did about Belmont as a pride trooper before becoming a god of destruction, and some panels in the manga about how he lives his life. But we don't really have anything else in terms of info about these people. I mean, we don't even really get to see a lot of Beerus or Champa for that matter. All we see is that they just like food. Again, I'm not talking about wanting to know backstories about every single character. I mean, we don't know stuff like the selection process for the Destroyers and how they actually got there, and why they're so strong. Of course, we've heard Beerus and Whis spitball the idea of having one of the Saiyans become the next Destroyer, but we don't know what actually qualifies someone of this position besides being powerful. Again, Universe 11 was really the only time we saw an extension of this idea, with Toppo and how he's a candidate for the next God of Destruction. See, that's an interesting role. He's a candidate for it. The fact that he's specified to be a candidate and already has the god powers makes it seem like there's probably others just like him. I mean, he could be the only candidate, but that's a weird terminology if it's just one person. It makes it sound like an election as if there's others competing with him. So how and why do they get chosen? Is there a criteria for selecting them? Do multiple candidates get picked and then trained to be gods? How do they even get their powers, and how often does this occur? While these questions aren't necessarily in dire need of an answer, it'll help expand our knowledge of the Destroyers and make them a little less mysterious. I mean, maybe it's their intention to make them mysterious, but knowing Dragon Ball, it's just probably a lack of explanation. And while on that topic, what about their powers? How do these gods become so powerful, and how did they learn that Hakai technique? See, this one is a bit more interesting because it seems like anyone can learn their powers with sufficient training. It's made to seem like this ability is exclusive to gods of destruction, but we've seen it harnessed or used by other people. Besides Toppo, we even saw Goku use it in the manga, although it was a very watered down version of it. And apparently, this technique can be given away and probably has different variations. When Universe 9's assassins came to attack Goku and Frieza, one of them was given some of the energy of destruction by their god. And the reason I said this technique could have variations is because this was somehow able to be wielded by some regular assassin, and Goku was able to survive in it. And not only that, Frieza was able to survive in it as well as actually harness it for himself. As if this energy is like a Hakai light or something. And back to Toppo for a second. He has a whole separate form for using his Destroyer abilities. Does every God of Destruction have this, and how does it work? Instead of getting more answers about the Destroyers, we're just left with questions. There's so much more that can be done to flesh them out, even stuff like look at their races potentially. As for Beerus specifically, his character has been fleshed out well enough now, but he still has that mystery about where he came from and how he ended up here and why. In addition, we have the Angels. It's pretty much same as the Destroyers here. We know that they're all siblings and they're assigned to be attendants for the Destroyers, but we don't really know much else about them. Again, it's not really necessary, but learning about these individuals might be nice, and I feel like they kind of dropped the ball on this. Like for the Angels, where did the Grand Priest come from? Why is he so powerful, and why are his children so strong? How did he and Zeno come into existence and gain influence in the first place? This would be something nice for the lore to have. A much better way for world building, or universe building, because we're talking about multiverses now. Now let's move on to the group that I probably want to learn most about, and that is the Demon Realm. While the video games have given us some answers about the Demon Realm and the way it works, there's nothing like that in canon yet that we know of, so we don't really know much about this mysterious realm. You would think, given how they're basically the opposite of Kais, that we'd learn some more about them by now, and they really haven't been that relevant. Like I said, some of the video games have added some lore about this part of the universe, but we have yet to see anything in the manga or anime. Really all we've seen is Deborah. Being introduced to Deborah was really all we've got so far. Like, what do we know about him? He's the king of the Demon Realm. Well, okay. That sounds cool and all, but why should we even care about that? We know nothing about this realm and how it works or what Deborah's role as king is. That has no impact when we know nothing about that. Like, the title might sound menacing, but we don't know what it holds. For all we know, the Demon Realm could just be an after-school club that Deborah and some friends started where they spend time playing Smash Bros. Or like, it could be the name of some hell-themed restaurant that Deborah runs. Or it could just be some empty plane of existence in the Dragon Ball universe with literally no one but Deborah ruling over it, where he just says he's the king since no one can say he isn't. Wow, that's kinda sad when you think about it. Must be pretty lonely for him. Jokes aside, if we actually knew about this demon realm and what it was or what it's about, Deborah might have been somewhat intimidating. But his name really just feels like an empty title without any of this info, and he feels like just another fodder villain that gets killed and serves no major long-term purpose, which really that's all he was. He could have been the perfect way to introduce us to this realm, and it might have been interesting and could have helped world build a lot more. But sadly, I don't really have much else to say about it because Deborah is really all we've got in canon so far. The video game stuff is kinda cool, but we still haven't heard much more about it besides that. It may be cool to add this to the lore. Since we have so little to work off of, that's really all I've got to talk about at the moment. It's just something that's been irking me for a while, because considering how much emphasis is put on all these godly characters sometimes, what purpose do they serve? We still have so many unanswered questions about them, but maybe we'll learn more about it in the future. It would definitely be nice. Dragon Ball could definitely benefit from some more lore like this. I'm sure a lot of people would love to hear the kind of stuff I discuss in this video. Who or what else in Dragon Ball do you think was a missed opportunity for you? Let me know in the comments below, and as usual, if you liked the video, remember to drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already, as well as hitting the bell icon to get notifications about all my future videos. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you on my next video.